Oh,
It's Brittany.
Oh, hi guys, it's Janae.
Hey, it's Brittany.
Okay, so we are on the second part of our 52 people devotion. So this is definitely the book that we're going out of. We showed it to you before, but for people that are just tuning in, we're doing it off of Women of the Bible. And this week we are doing it on Sarah. So
Okay, so first of all, I'll just start by the meaning of her name and a little bit about her character. Sarah means princess.
or chiefess.
Or that. I don't know how to pronounce it, so I didn't say it. But Sarah was known to be very beautiful, and in her time, she would have been able to get almost any guy she wanted. And she could have been very strong-willed and very jealous, but instead she was known to be a very loyal wife to Abraham. Mm-hmm. And she always did strived to do what was right, and she did not give in to fear. And that we really kind of admired her for that after reading about her a little bit more. So I'll just get into a little bit about Sarah's story. Sarah and Abraham were both promised by God to be, to have a great land, and that their offspring would receive this land that they were going to have. And one day God came to Abraham and was like, leave your households and you're going to this land that I will tell you about, and this will be your offspring's land as well. Well, by this time Abraham was 100 years old and Sarah was 90, and most of the people today don't even live to be that old. So you can imagine the impatience that grew upon Sarah as, you know, God's like, oh, your offspring will have this, and she was 90 years old and still had no children. Mm-hmm. And she was actually known to be barren, which means she couldn't have kids. So Sarah began to doubt God's plan for her and Abraham's life, and she took matters into her own hands, and she gave her maidservant Hagar to become Abraham's wife. And Abraham slept with Hagar, and Hagar became pregnant and gave birth to a boy named Ishmael. Well, soon enough, Hagar and Sarah began to resent each other. Hagar began kind of mistreating Sarah as her master, because she was the one who gave Abraham a son. And so Sarah eventually told Abraham to kick them out. And Abraham listened to Sarah, but God did tell him to. God told Abraham, listen to your wife, I will take care of Ishmael and Hagar. Don't worry about them, just listen to what Sarah says. So Hagar and Ishmael left, and we'll definitely get into them later. But God revealed himself again to Abraham and said that I will bless Sarah and will surely give you a son by her. I will bless her so that she will be the mother of nations. Kings of peoples will come from her. Abraham fell face down. He laughed and said to himself, will a son be born to a man 100 years old? Will Sarah bear a child at the age of 90? And sure enough, 9 months later, Sarah gave birth to a baby boy, and they named him Isaac. And, you know, God fulfilled his promise through them. And Sarah definitely recognized that. She even laughed when she was told that she was going to give birth to a son in her old age. And they recognized that, and even Isaac's name means he laughs. So that's pretty cool.
Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and get into kind of the pros and cons of what happened in that situation. Obviously, we can see, and we learned about Eve, how when she tried to take things into her own hands, it only ended in suffering. And it happens in the same way with Sarah. She again tried to take everything out of God's hands, and just put it into her hands. And what ended up happening, it just goes to show, though, that God's mercy is so great and his grace is so great as well, because even after Sarah made a mistake and said, God, like, I don't care about you, I'm going to do what I want to do about this, God still blessed her at the age of 90 to have a child. And it just goes to show, like, that everything is in God's timing. So I'm going to share a couple of clips with you. If you haven't seen yet, we posted a poem on our page, and it was called I Will Wait For You. So thank you for sharing that link with us, Jamie. That was an awesome one. But there's two things that I want to say, and they were so powerful, and me and Brittany both agreed on it. So it was, I will no longer be weighed down from so-called friends and family talks about the concern for my biological clock when I serve the author of time. And of course, like, you can take it at like surface and like women get married and stuff like that, but on all honesty, it just goes to show, like, God is the author of time. He knows your past, he knows the present, and he knows the future. So why wouldn't you just let go? You don't know what's going to happen in the past. You only know what's happening now, and you don't know what's going to happen in the future. You only know what's happening now and what happened in the past. So why would you not trust him with your future when he already knows it? You know? So that was so powerful to me. And also she said, arteries so clogged with my will, it blocked his will from flowing through me. So sometimes when we get so caught up in what we're doing, it takes away from what God wants to really do in our lives. So we just really have to be careful with that, because like I said, God knows all things. Just let go and let him. But it even says her name, Sarah, means chiefness. It means that she is, what did you say?
The mother of all nations.
The mother of all nations. And God eventually allowed her to do that, but like, that was the meaning of her name, the mother of all nations. That was the will in her life, to be the mother of all nations. And it took her a long time to be able to live up to that because of the mistakes that she continued to make. But in the old days, like, names meant so much. Names were so important. I'm also going to pull this from the poem. It was just so awesome. You guys should watch it if you get a chance. But I have it right down here on my computer. It says, names that we see now, obviously they had their own names and they meant specific things, but now we see in the Bible that because of what they lived up to, we have different meanings for those names now. So it says, your ability to lead will remind me of Moses. Your faith will remind me of Abraham. Your confidence in God's word will remind me of Daniel. Your inspiration will remind me of Paul. Your heart of God will remind me of David. Your attention to detail will remind me of Noah. Your integrity will remind me of Joseph. And your ability to abandon your own will remind me of the disciples. And then this is the best one. But your ability to love selflessly and unconditionally will remind me of Christ. And for the women, where the boldness of Esther meets the closeness of Ruth, where the hospitality of Lydia is aligned with the submission of Mary, which is engulfed in the tears of a praying Hannah. They had their names that meant different things in that time, but because of the way they lived their lives, they have such a powerful meaning to us. That saying right there, tears of a praying Hannah, is so powerful. That's what we know Hannah as now, not because of what her name used to mean, but what she now made it mean. So definitely keep that in mind. But we're going to go ahead and just get into some questions real quick about that.
So one of my favorite questions in this section was, God fulfilled his promise to Abraham and Sarah in his time. Mm-hmm. Describe how you think they felt about God's timing. And obviously, you know, as I said before, Sarah was growing impatient about, you know, God fulfilling his promise about many offspring for her and Abraham. And so again, she took matters into her own hands. And it just made me think, like, I'm not on my own time. I'm on God's time. He created this universe. He created my life. I have no right to create my own time. I don't have that ability. I don't have that power, because God has all of it. And I don't even want to think about taking it away from him, or even have the idea of fathom fathoming taking that away from him. I can't do that, and I don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to ruin any chance of veering off of God's path for my plan. And you know what? Sometimes we may not always know God's plan for our lives right now, and that's okay. You don't always have to know God's plan for you every single day or every single step, but He is with you with every decision that you make.
Mm-hmm.
And He knows the decisions that you're going to make and the actions you're going to take, and He will direct those to His plan.
Yeah.
And He will guide you to the ending result of His plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I can't even imagine waiting 90 years to have a child. I mean, half the girls our age have kids already. And I can't imagine waiting that long to have a kid. But I don't want to doubt God. I still want His blessings to be poured out on me because I waited for Him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this whole thing isn't necessarily about like waiting on your husband, because that's a whole completely different story. But when you can like wait on God, when you continue to wait on God, is when you see like His plan being fulfilled in your life. Sorry, just to add that on. But the other question that we had is, if you were to ask God to change your name, what would you want it to be, and what would you want it to mean? And there's kind of two things that we kind of got from that. The first thing is, like, would you want to be known, like, would you want your name to be changed to Abraham or Daniel or Paul or David, or would you want people to remember your name because of what you made it into? Would you want it to be submission like Janae, or warmth like Brittany, or tears of prayer like Jamie, or boldness like Jackie, or integrity like Ronnie, unconditional love like Matthew, or a heart after God like Gabe? So how are you with your name? Are you living up to the world's standards of it, or are you living up to God's standards of the name? So that's just something that we wanted you to think about, and definitely leave comments and let us know what you think about your name and how you're living up to it. But for next week, it's technically next week, but tomorrow still. So
before we move on from tomorrow, I just have a little something to add, that just because we were just talking about this a little bit, how, you know, our names technically don't mean anything great in the literal sense, but we want to make a name for ourselves. Mm-hmm. And just because it doesn't mean something literally, like if you look it up in the dictionary or whatever, doesn't mean that it can't mean anything. Mm-hmm. And you want people to remember the legacy that you leave. Yeah. If you think about the people that you admire the most, if they were gone tomorrow or even today, what would you remember about them? That's their name. That's the name they lived up to. Mm-hmm. So what name are you going to leave behind? Mm. Sorry.
That's good.
Just really,
passionate about that.
So tomorrow we're going to be talking about Hagar.
So the soap opera unravels.
Yeah. Dun, dun, dun. Just kidding. So you're kind of going to be looking at the same scriptures. You're going to be looking at Genesis chapter 16 and Genesis chapter 21 verses 8 through 21. And then also Galatians 4, 22 through 31. And we'll definitely get more into her and the drama tomorrow. So have a good night, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.